Hello and welcome to another edition of the Schmozcast. I'm Chandler here in the 103.5 The Sun Community Radio Station with Anthony and Andre. Guys, how are we doing this evening?
Hell yeah, brother.
I'm doing all right.
That's what we like.
A little bit of food poisoning, so I'm calling this my Michael Jordan flu game of the Schmozcast.
Oh man, he's going for it all.
I'm an adult diaper kind of guy when I have food poisoning, so I'm glad to hear you. I mean, it's
Thankfully,
good that you're here,
thankfully,
but
symptoms have been gone for several hours, so no
need, yeah. Or 80-minute bathroom trips, or just adult diapers and wet wipes. Good combo. It's a good combo.
Then you don't have to worry.
Yeah.
This week we're gonna be. We just started today's show off with CM Punk's first theme song in the WWE. I don't know. We decided to go with CM Punk because this week we're going to be doing our top 5 lists of the best in the world today, and what better way to start things off than with CM Punk, who was formerly known as the best in the world. We'll also be talking about Money in the Bank and the things that kind of happened on Raw and SmackDown this week leading up to that. I think I want to start off with that. Let's kind of start off with things that happened this week on both Raw and SmackDown that have Money in the Bank implications. So on Raw, we have one of the biggest headlines from Raw this week was the fact that Ronda Rousey will be challenging at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. She will be challenging Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship, and it kind of all came about on a red carpet. And I don't know, I finally did get to see the footage of the red carpet and how it went down, and they're definitely playing. I mean, they're two faces, so they're kind of playing it more of the friendly rivalry kind of way. But by the end of the interview, if that's what you want to call it, because Ronda was being interviewed, then Charlotte came up and kind of got in the interview, and then Nia came up and was holding up the Raw Women's Championship, saying, "Yeah, you've done this, you've done that, but can you do this?" And she held up the Raw Women's Championship, and by the end of the interview, Nia challenged Ronda, and Ronda was kind of like, "I appreciate that, but there's a lot of girls who have been here before me that deserve it more." And Nia's like, "Well, I'm not challenging any of them. I'm challenging you." And then the three of them kind of arm in arm walk off together, and that, like, I was kind of buying it up until that point, but once I saw that, I don't know, it kind of took a bit of the steam out for me. And I'm sure that there's plenty of time left for them to actually build up a match and a rivalry, but the way that they walked away from that interview, it wasn't the best start in my eyes. Did either of you two see any of this, or just from here, if you hadn't seen it, from hearing me say it, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I'll get in here first about this. So I have not seen the specific instance, but this is something that I have had an opinion on for a while when it comes to the women's division, specifically in the Women's Revolution. The in-ring stuff is great. I really like what we have going on there. Some of the rivalries, where they're at now, is light years above where they were not just 10 years ago, but even maybe 3 to 5 years ago. I have an issue with some of the stuff that they do with social media and outside of the ring with the girls. They don't keep storylines going as much as I think they should. And I know it's 2018, social media, kayfabe is dead, whatever you want to say. But you know what I think is that when it comes to social media, that you don't, when you're a girl you're in a rivalry with, or a guy you're in a rivalry with, post a picture of them in a cute little chihuahua, you don't say, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute." I know that on screen, and it's only on screen that you're supposed to have an issue with them. Either don't do that, or do it with other people who are on other shows, or whatever it might be. And I know this is kind of a cross-show thing that you're talking about somewhat. But to me, what I see on Instagram with the girls being all buddy and everything, I don't like it that much. And I think that they could do a better job of actually following more of what's going on with their storylines, or people who might be their rivalry now in the future, or down the road at a WrestleMania, whatever it might be. I think that we could actually take a step back on some of the niceties when it comes to social media, and then, making a tweet that says that where they're angry with their opponent, and then another one where, "Oh, this is such a great photo of you working out with your tap out shorts."
I haven't seen much of that. Who specifically?
I don't have specifics, but it is just a thing where it's like, aren't you guys supposed to all hate each other? Or weren't you in a pay-per-view match a few months ago? And it's not like terribly egregious, but that's just some of the feelings that I've gotten about the women's division that I have yet to put out on the air yet.
Because I I haven't seen much of that. I've seen a little bit of it. I haven't seen any between Ronda and Nia Jax. But even if so, it wouldn't bother me too much because they're gonna face each other for the championship, but they're not enemies. They don't hate each other yet, and I don't think they will. I think this is. I didn't see the red carpet or whatever that Chandler was talking about, so I can't speak too much on that. But as far as the two of them having a match, I don't have a problem with it. There's a lot of fans online that are complaining that, oh, it's too soon. But those same fans, when their favorite indie wrestler comes up to WWE, they want them in the title scene right away. So it's kind of a little bit of hypocrisy. I don't mind it because what else is there for her to do? I really don't think she's going to win the title. I think this is... I didn't see Raw. I just read the results. But I think this is a setup for, obviously, Natalya to turn on her and set up a feud between those two. We'll see what happens. But I think that's what's going to happen. So as far as those two facing each other, I don't mind it. I have yet to see any of the video, so I won't comment too much on that.
And I absolutely agree with that. Like, I don't mind that Ronda is in the title picture. And I agree with what you said as well, Andre, the fact that certain people right now are saying that they're not happy with the fact that Ronda's had one match. She hasn't even had a singles match yet. She's been in one mixed tag match, and that's all that she's done in the WWE, and all of a sudden she's the number one contender. But you got to remember, too, this is Ronda Rousey we're talking about here. She was legitimately, at one point in time, she was legitimately looked at as the baddest woman on the planet. And it's, you can say that about certain wrestlers. You can say that about certain other athletes even. But I just... With Ronda Rousey, with the string of wins that she put together in the UFC before she finally got beat, it's, to me, that alone, bringing her into the WWE, you can put her in the title picture. And if people have a problem with that, then I don't know what to say to them. But I don't have a problem with the match. And like I said, honestly, the interview itself, I didn't have a problem with. It was just the way the interview ended, with all of them literally like arm in arm walking off, kind of like laughing everything off. And it kind of took this, what little bit of steam they built up with the previous interview. And I liked the stance that Ronda took, because obviously Ronda knows that she belongs in the title picture. She knows how capable she is, but the fact that she was kind of like, no, there are other people in front of me. Like I don't mind being at the back of the line because I'm just now starting. And then Nia being like, well, I'm not challenging any of those other people. I'm challenging you. Like, I liked that a lot. I really did. But just, I don't know, the fact that they left the interview the way they did was kind of what left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. Nothing that's going to ruin anything that they have going forward or make me, sour me on this title match. It's nothing that bad, but it's just something that I was kind of like, I don't know if they should have left it that way.
There's, I don't know. Like I said, I'd just like to see a little bit more continuation outside of what we see on screen to the storylines that are going on, and maybe that means taking a break on other things outside of wrestling to make your rivalry seem more legitimate. And I know, like, we all know what's going on, but at the same time, I don't know. I just like to see a little bit more effort from the females. But I give them a lot of credit because they have come so far in a short time span, these specific girls, and a lot of that has to do with WWE kind of releasing a lot of the, handcuffs or whatever that might have been on that is allowing these girls to have the women's revolution. But that's been some of my issues on Instagram, but also... great stuff on Instagram from a lot of the WWE divas that I'm a big fan of. Peyton Royce is, as you guys know from the last couple weeks on the show, is my current girlfriend. So
I don't know if I necessarily agree with you, not on what you just said about Peyton Royce on the Instagram.
Because she is my girlfriend. There is no disputing that, Andre. Andre, there is no disputing that she is my girlfriend.
Sure. Anyways, but as far as the Instagram stuff, I don't necessarily agree. I don't think I see it all that much. I do see it with friends, but I haven't seen it much with... Maybe I'm not looking as much as I should, but I haven't seen it with like Nia or Bliss. I don't know. I'd like to see some examples. I don't know. Maybe you can bring me some next week or something. Just a suggestion. But anyways.
These are just things I see when I'm, faced on my ceiling, sitting on my bed with my shorts at my ankles. Just kidding. Sorry,
The views of
Instagram.
Frony does not necessarily reflect the views of Schmozcast. I just want to throw that out there.
And when you say not necessarily, you mean totally.
Yeah. No, that's fair. But I there was a great tweet from Cody Rhodes, or Cody, last week that he's like, "What's going on with Instagram? Is this just workouts pretending to be porn, or porn pretending to be workouts? Like, what happened to all the cute dogs?" Which is kind of funny, but I get that when I do look at some of the WWE Divas pages.
All right. So moving on, some other things that happened on Monday Night Raw. We had Bobby Roode qualify for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. He defeated Baron Corbin and No Way Jose in a triple threat. This doesn't have to do with Money in the Bank, but I thought it was a really funny segment. The former Miz Taraj, they're being referred to now as the B team, which is the best team. They tried to go for the A team. Kurt Angle told them, "You guys, that already exists." It was a really funny segment. I think that if they're gonna move forward with these two kind of as the comedy act, they're in a good spot. They came out with their own merchandise, which was literally just a white T-shirt with a giant bee drawn on with a Sharpie. So, it was a fun segment, like I said, and I'm honestly looking forward to things going forward with these two.
In terms of funny tag teams on Raw, I'd love to see those two in a segment with Breezango or even the Ascension.
They had a match with
okay,
Breezango.
yeah, I'd love to see something between those three teams, whether it's a fun storyline, whatever. Just with 3 hours of Raw, I think there's more
so much room
spot
for that,
comedy, more so than a SmackDown. Not that you can't have it on SmackDown, and obviously, the Fashion Files were just fine, but this is, I think, an even better spot for that type of thing when you're in terms of filling out 3 hours as opposed to 2.
Yeah, it was a fun segment. Let's see, what else would we have for leading into Money in the Bank? Alexa Bliss qualified for the women's match, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match on Monday night, and it looks like she defeated Bayley, and I'm not sure if that was a triple threat match, so if there was someone else in that match, I apologize. But yeah, so pretty much on the Raw side, that's what we have going on for leading up to Money in the Bank within these next few weeks here. SmackDown, let's see. We have the New Day and the Bar go against each other, and the New Day was represented by Xavier Woods and Big E versus Sheamus and Cesaro, where the winning team gets to then select one of their members to be in the men's match, and the New Day got the win there. It was a great match. It was really nice to see Xavier got the win over Cesaro, which was cool to see because last week Cesaro almost caved Xavier Woods' mouth in with an uppercut when he was going for his top rope
Put a hole
elbow
in his
drop.
tongue.
Yeah, and he was bleeding from the mouth and everything. So he got a little retribution this week. New Day rocks, super awesome. Andrade Cien Almas defeated a local competitor. They were over in the UK. He made his SmackDown in-ring debut. Looked great. I'm so excited for him on SmackDown in the future. Where do you guys see him? Do you see him as a United States title kind of person at the moment, or do you want to see him jump straight up to the main event, try to go after the WWE title?
Not yet. I definitely see him as a main eventer,
yeah.
and I see him as a future star for a long, long time. I know I'm biased because I'm a huge fan of him, but there's a reason why I'm a fan of him. He has everything as far as in the ring. His promos are really good for English not being his first language, and of course you got Zelina with him, who is awesome as a manager, or whatever they want to call him, valet manager.
A bad luck valet.
Oh my. Wow. Yeah, but I don't see him jumping to the main event scene right away. I see him building himself up. A nice U.S. title run, or at least in the U.S. title picture, would be perfect for him because he needs to... I mean, the fans knew about him. They were chanting NXT because I did see that match. That was the only thing from SmackDown I saw because I had to see Cien. But I think he needs a little bit of time to build himself up. I think they kind of messed up a little bit with Shinsuke when he first came up, so I hope they don't do the same thing with Cien. But we'll see. I'm super excited. I love Cien. I can't wait to watch next week. I can't wait to see what the future holds for him on SmackDown.
I also would love to see Cien Almas with a mid-card title leading up to an eventual maybe main title or main event type push. I don't think that we're there yet. Maybe 3/4 of a year to a year away from him being in that spot. But I have no problem with him being one of the guys that you like when you think of the mid card. Like when you picture the Miz, I think that you can. There's definitely a spot similar to that for Cien Almas, certainly in a different way. Also having a manager or valet, but she is going to do more of the talking. But his in-ring work with everything and the possibilities that you can have in terms of feuds with the United States title, the way it's currently constructed, I think is the way to go with Cien Almas. And you don't want to, give him the rocket ship and then only to have him bring him back to this spot. And you know what? Let's suppose that his ultimate height is being where the Miz is now. Man, that's a great spot to be at.
If you're doing anything similar to what the Miz has done for the past 2 years, that is not at all a bad spot to be in. And just going back to Cien Almas, he truly does have it all. He's got speed. He's got agility. He can fly high and take risks. He can do technical work. He's strong. He's got it all in the ring. So there's no reason that him being in a prominent either mid card or even main event spot, there's no reason that shouldn't be a thing. And I think we can all agree on that.
And he's so smooth in the ring, too. That's one of my favorite things. He's just
Tranquilo.
Super smooth. And I don't know, just can tell a story. He has it all, so I'm pumped.
And there's no one, sometimes you see a wrestler and you think, oh, he shouldn't be in a rivalry with this kind of wrestler or this type of, someone with these certain type of skills. He is so skilled that I don't think it matters necessarily who his opponent is and that he's going to get good matches out of anybody. And you can put him in a rivalry with almost anyone as well. And I know the idea right now is heel, keep him there for right now. But I think either way this goes, this is the way to start him off, though, certainly. So I really like the spot he's in. SmackDown, I think, is the better spot for him. He's less likely to get lost in the shuffle, even with all the talent that SmackDown has. And where he is right now, I also think you could do a heel versus heel thing. I'm just thinking, let's talk in the fall here. If you did a Samoa Joe and Cien Almas type of program, even though they're both set as heels, they each have enough fan base and following and people respect their skills enough where that could be really something special.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of not only Joe and, like you said, a heel versus heel type of deal, next week we're going to have Big Cass versus Samoa Joe for the last qualifying spot on SmackDown Live for the men's ladder match. So, as you said, certain programs, when you have a heel versus heel, it works out perfectly. I feel like a face versus face, you don't have to worry about that, whether or not that's going to work out, just because half the crowd is going to be cheering for one person, half the crowd is going to be cheering for the other person, whereas a face versus heel, half the crowd is cheering, half the crowd is booing, or a heel versus heel, you're going to have booing and booing. But if you get the right people together, and Big Cass is absolutely the right person at this point in time. He has impressed me so much since coming back from injury. I'm really looking forward to that match next week. This week on SmackDown, Daniel Bryan kind of got his just desserts on Big Cass, and man, he messed him up, you guys. I know you guys both said you didn't watch it that much this week, but Daniel Bryan, he was laying into that previously injured leg of Big Cass's. He got him in a heel hook that looked like a legit heel hook, and it was in deep. So that was just that was awesome to see Daniel Bryan kind of get what was coming, give Cass what was coming to him.
I did see clips of that. I didn't see the full segment, but I did see clips of that. I did see him go after him and with the closed fists and then kick the leg and then put him in the hold, and it was great. I love seeing that kind of stuff from Daniel Bryan and from baby faces. It kind of reminded me a little bit of old school ROH Daniel Bryan when he was kicking everybody's effing head in and stuff like that. As best you can for WWE, of course. But I really liked it. I'm loving what he's doing since he's been back. It's so exciting. Daniel Bryan's the man. I love seeing him back in the ring and performing, and I'm just so happy that he was able to get cleared. Took a little while, but it's worth it. And
better late than never.
Yep, exactly. And the future possibilities are endless.
All right, so moving back to the kind of the things that happened that will be leading up to Money in the Bank. Carmella had her royal celebration and got interrupted by Paige. Yeah, that was a thing. Got interrupted by Paige, and Paige came out and told her who her challenger for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship was going to be at Money in the Bank. It is none other than Asuka. So that's going to be. What do you guys see happening here? Is this title reign that Carmella has? Is she going to have a legit heel long title reign? Is she more of a transitional champion and Asuka's going to take the title off of her at Money in the Bank? What do you guys see?
I think there's no chance that we have more than to me, even 3 months for Carmella to have the title would be too long. This is not a disrespect towards Carmella thing. It's just looking at other people in the division who are more deserving, who I think are more formidable opponents or looks have been built stronger over however many months you want to go back to NXT for if you want to consider Charlotte, Asuka, and Carmella in that conversation. That even going back to NXT, I think you would still put Carmella as last with those being in the same division as the other two. But right now, yeah, I really only see her as a title holder. I don't see her as a champion. While I was there in New Orleans when it happened, and it was still a fun thing that she did cash in and won the title, similar to a Dolph Ziggler a few years back. To me, I just don't view Carmella as that same kind of in-ring competitor. In terms of like even a 4-star match, like the possibility, if you put a percentage on wrestlers to have a 4-star match, whether that be agreed upon by wrestling fans in general, an average of everyone, or a Dave Meltzer, whatever, I think that Charlotte and Asuka are far and away more likely to have a 4-star match. And I know that shouldn't be in the minds of like the writing team or whatever, but that still does matter. And I think that really says much more about Asuka and Charlotte's in-ring potential. And while Mella hasn't gotten the same shot that those girls have, I think there's also a reason for that they know that they've got more and they can let Asuka and Charlotte do more in the ring for longer than what you can get out of Mella. But I still would love to see her get the chance, maybe not necessarily as a champion in the future.
I somewhat disagree, or somewhat agree, but I also somewhat disagree, because at the same time, what you said about Charlotte and Asuka is true. However, they can't wrestle every single night.
Oh, sure.
And I don't think that having a beatable champion is always a bad thing. I think sometimes that's good. I definitely think Asuka's going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they held this run from Carmella for a little bit longer. But Asuka, I have a take on Asuka too. I think her losing to Charlotte was a really good thing, because the streak is out of the way now, so she can focus on the championship. If she wins that Money in the Bank, you don't know how long she's gonna hold it. You don't know going into a match with Charlotte or anyone else if she's gonna keep it or if she's gonna lose. When you have that streak, it's like, okay, the streak is gonna go on unless it's a big match at a big pay-per-view. So I think getting that streak out of the way was really good for Asuka, and I think having her win at Money in the Bank is the right way to go. But I don't necessarily know that they're going to do that. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Carmella's okay as champion. I hated her before. I like her now. She's won me over, but I don't know how long I want to see her be champion, but I'm going to let this play out and go from there.
If we were doing like when they did the top 10 list, kind of like college football, and if you did it with just the women's division, I think that it would be hard to put Carmella anywhere higher than 5th place right now. I think that you would go with Asuka, Charlotte, and even the Iconics before you decided to start talking about, and there's girls Becky Lynch. There's other people that I'm missing before you. I think that if we were to do that type of list, we did it months ago for the tag team division. What's it called? When you do a current list, but it's
the list.
No,
you just made the list?
No, yeah, that's close enough, but
like power rankings?
Power rankings, thank you. The power rankings. If we did a power rankings for the SmackDown women's division, let alone all of WWE's women, I think that Carmella is not going to crack the top 5.
That's true.
And that's, I think that's fair.
That's true. But that's wrestling, baby. That's why.
No, it's true, and that's why I also don't completely disagree with you saying that sometimes it is okay to have a heel champion who seems so beatable. That makes it fun when they pull out all the tricks, all the stops, everything that makes it happen.
And that's what I feel like what's going to happen at Money in the Bank, because she has, you mentioned the Iconics, she has them in her back pocket. She's shown herself that she'll take any shortcut that she can. So I think that truthfully it could go either way. Asuka's obviously the better competitor of the two, but someone like Carmella, you can't discount the fact that she is willing to do anything to get the win, and she has two other women in her corner. They might not necessarily physically be in her corner when the match starts, but you can't say that they won't help her try to retain the title, because they are pretty much the sole reason that she was able to cash in and defeat Charlotte.
Yes, and on top of that, you have in her back pocket, she has that. She did tack the knee, but she has that clean victory over Charlotte. Charlotte beat Asuka, so there adds a little bit more intrigue. Not that she's gonna beat Asuka clean, nor should she, but if she's going to, I'm hoping it's through shenanigans or through the Iconics, who we've said before are favorites of the show. I love the Iconics; they're great.
I just think with it being Money in the Bank, and that's when Carmella originally sort of won her first, and then they had the rematch a couple weeks later, but this would be a great time and a great opportunity for James Ellsworth to make his return to WWE and help Carmella keep that title in the, kind of crap heelish ways that we're talking about, the devious, undermining the rules type of way that Carmella fits that kind of mold of a heel champion in this current women's division as it is constructed on SmackDown.
Yeah, I could totally see that too. Moving on, another match in the women's division on SmackDown. We had Becky Lynch defeat both Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose in a triple threat match to qualify for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So Becky Lynch, who was the first ever SmackDown Live Women's Champion, now has an opportunity to win the Money in the Bank and then possibly go on to have her second SmackDown Women's title reign. So that'll be cool to see. I'm really glad that she made the match. And then finally, the main event of SmackDown Live was Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles, and the winner of this match is going to be able to go on and pick the stipulation for their WWE title match at Money in the Bank. Shinsuke Nakamura ended up winning this match, one clean. He pulled a little bit of an Eddie Guerrero. He lied his way to the victory, but he didn't actually deliver a low blow this week, which was extremely shocking. But he acted as if once the ref kind of almost got a phenomenal forearm. AJ stopped himself, and as AJ was checking on the ref to make sure that he was okay, they both end up turning around and looking, and Shinsuke is grabbing his crotch, acting like he was hit with a low blow, and that wasn't a disqualification, but it distracted both AJ and the ref, and then Shinsuke took advantage, ended up hitting a Kinshasa, and won the match clean. So I think this was the first match in this series that they've had so far, which would be their fourth one now, and it actually had an actual clean finish. So
where does this match stack up with their other ones? Is this the best one, or I haven't seen it yet?
That's what I've been reading. I had a long day and fell asleep just before this match started. But from what from all the reviews that I've read and things that I've been hearing, and even of a former coworker of mine who's kind of more so lately been getting into wrestling, he watched this match and he texted me earlier today, and we were talking about it, and he said that he thought it was the best that they've had so far. So I'm really looking forward to going back and watching this all the way through, just so I can see for myself whether or not it is the best match of these two so far in the WWE.
And I can't wait to see what stipulation they go with, what they kayfabe have Shinsuke decide. I'm hearing rumblings of an Iron Man match. I hope so. I really do. I think that would be perfect, because then you don't have the DQ, the count out. I mean, you can have count out, but that's not the end of the match. That's just a victory. That's just a fall. So I think Iron Man match is the way to go, but we'll see what happens. A ladder match would be great too, but a ladder match kind of redundant at Money in the Bank, so I don't see them doing that. Anything else, I don't know. Last man standing match doesn't work because of what happened last time. Maybe best 2 out of 3 falls match is another possibility. So I think between those two and Iron Man match is the best option. But we'll see.
Iron Man match would be like the ultimate possibility. And many of the things that I've said on this show about Shinsuke and AJ is about, okay, at some point we need to have that 25 to 30 minute match. Well, having an Iron Man match really sets everything up for what I've been hoping from this rivalry. I think this would be a great way to end this current form of the rivalry. I'm obviously with these two, you can go back to it at some point, but to me, this is the way to go. And if they do decide to go that route, with there likely being two other, longer matches and two Money in the Bank matches, plus the possibility of an Iron Man match, I would hope that they. And also, we've talked about before about them making Money in the Bank one of the big five. We're done with Big Four. It's now the big five. You add Money in the Bank in there with Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania. And I think you push this to 4 hours. And if this does become a 4-hour pay-per-view and you have Shinsuke and AJ going an hour for the title, I would absolutely love that. And I do think that is the way to go here. And if not here, then this needs to be a building block to an eventual Iron Man match, or once again, a 25 to 30 minute match. To me is really what I'm looking for these two to give us the full story, the full complement of each of their abilities, and the intricate things that these two can do in the ring in general, but especially with each other.
If they do an Iron Man match, what I think they'll do is just half an hour, which is actually fine by me, because that half an hour is bell to bell action. It's not the typical WWE counts the entrances and counts any shenanigans after the match. So you do a 30-minute Iron Man match. You let them have their entrances, let them have the match, let whatever happens after the match happen. I think that'll be fine too. I'd love an hour, but I don't know on a pay-per-view with two ladder matches that they'll go an hour, but who knows? I know recently WWE has been doing 30-minute Iron Man matches as opposed to an hour, so that might be what they're planning on doing. But either way, I'd be happy with 30 minutes to an hour of in-ring competition between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura.
And I agree with you guys 100%. I think that's the way to go. Give these guys as much time as you possibly can. And at this point, with everything that's happened in their previous matches, I don't see any other stipulation besides an Iron Man match working out. I could see 2 out of 3 falls, but definitely not a ladder match, not anything. Especially with the finish of the last match being a no DQ, ending up in a double count out. You have to have it be an Iron Man match where something like a double count out will just count as a fall and it won't be the end of the match. So my fingers are crossed for Iron Man for sure. Moving on here, we have a few lists of who we think are currently the top 5 wrestlers in the world today. We got a few things from our contributors. We'll get to those first, and then we'll give our 3 lists after that. Frony, do you want to go ahead and read off?
So what we have here is we have, Chandler, Andre, and I have our lists for the top 5 best wrestlers in the world. We talked about this a little bit after WrestleMania. This is kind of the time to do our personal power rankings of how we see, that college football style BCS rankings of we're each putting our 5 best wrestlers in order, who we think is the best right now. And I think shortly after WrestleMania is kind of the time of the year to do that. We also have Sam Wagner's list. We have Ben Wong. You've heard Zach on the show. You've heard Christian on the show, as well as Ben Wong. Sam is also an occasional contributor. Zach, of course, helps out with our logos. Christian's been on a number of times via the 103.5 The Sun hotline. So we have 7 different lists of, different minds, all guys who love wrestling, and we certainly all have our own opinion, and that was kind of the fun thing to see is who would be put where. There's one thing that stands out to me right away is, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like Kenny Omega was on 5 of the 7 lists. He did not make yours.
It was,
which has got to be tough. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But let's start off with Christian's list. For Christian, number 5 was Adam Cole.
Baby.
And at number 4, he put Velveteen Dream, which I think is pretty cool. And really, you're only going to see 3 current NXT wrestlers on any of the 7 lists all together combined. We'll get to the third one, who is actually going to be going to be on a couple people's lists. Christian is the only one who put Adam Cole or Velveteen Dream, but as I said, there's another person from NXT who's going to be on a couple people's lists. Number 3, he has Okada. Okada's interesting to me just because he's sort of the odd man out when it comes to my list, but also just because of the timing of this, of when we did our list, which is about 4 weeks ago, and some of them, us 3 had the benefit and did them more recently. But Okada, obviously, one of the best wrestlers in the world. If we did a full top 10, there's no way he's going to escape anyone's top 10. But it is interesting that he did not make everyone's top 5, Kazuchika Okada, because He hasn't had, a recent huge match that would put him up there quite with everyone else. I know it's a little bit different than it was a month ago, but so it's interesting to me that Christian put Okada number 3. So he's still very much prevalent and relevant in Christian's mind. Number 2 is Okada, and number 1 he went with Naito.
2 is Omega.
2 is I'm sorry. Did I say Okada twice?
You did, yes.
Okay, my bad. 3 is Okada, 2 is Omega, and Naito is number 1 for Christian. And Naito for Christian is interesting because I believe Naito only made one other person's list, and I would have guessed Benoit just because of his love of New Japan. But Sam Wagner was another person who put Naito at number 3 on his list. What do you guys see with Christian's list as it is? It's interesting because, the top 3 you have New Japan, Naito, Omega, Okada, and then the bottom 2 are NXT. So there's not even an AJ or a Shinsuke or a Seth Rollins, somebody, the 3 that would be most likely to be on our or other people's top 5s, which means nobody from actual WWE, Raw or SmackDown, made Christian's top 5.
I don't mind it. I think it's a good list. And I think, especially when you consider the timing of when he wrote it, it would make sense that he wouldn't have a WWE guy. I mean, maybe if he did it
because this
yesterday.
is the week after WrestleMania weekend, and he's got Adam Cole, who was had a huge deal in 2 matches there at NXT New Orleans.
I still say that has to be the greatest single night that anyone in NXT has ever had.
Yeah,
he made history on 2 fronts. He's the first ever NXT North American champion, and then also he helped his team successfully defend the NXT Tag Team titles and won the Dusty Tag Team Classic. Those both were in the same match. So in 2 different matches, he won 2 titles and won a tournament. I can't argue that.
Yeah, me neither.
And so then next we'll go to Zach Wagner's list. Zach, of course, does our wonderful logo, has been in the studio as well as on the phone before on our shows. Number 5, Zach has Shinsuke. Number 4, he goes with Kevin Owens. 3 goes with Gargano, which is now the 3rd person from NXT you've seen on any of the lists, as well as then Omega at 2 and AJ at 1. Once again, I mean, each of us have our own lists, and if you're just doing top 5, somebody's going to get left off. In this case, I would say that Okada is the one left off the list. He's got AJ and Shinsuke in there, along with Owens, Omega, and Gargano. AJ gets the top spot here, which even though AJ makes most of our lists, I mean, for him to be at number 1, I mean, that's you're not going to get much beef with that right now, right?
No.
Not at all.
No.
And I like all these lists. I mean, even though they're all different, it's cool because we all have our preferences of what we like and what we prefer as far as style. So I really like that our lists aren't all the same.
Interesting also, so as I said, Zach has AJ number 1. AJ did not make Christian's list because, once again, no one from Raw or SmackDown made the list for Christian. Now moving on to Ben Wong. Ben Wong also, no AJ here. He starts off with the number 5 spot with Will Ospreay at number 5,
and
Kota Ibushi. All right. At number 5, Ben Wong has a tie. He has Skrull and Ospreay at the number 5 spot. Number 4, you go to Kota Ibushi. Kota Ibushi made 2 people's lists out of 7. He was on my list as well as Ben Wong's. He might be a little bit higher on mine than some of you are prepared to hear, but we'll see when we get there. Number 3, he has Zack Sabre Jr. This will be the only landing of Zack Sabre Jr. on anybody's list, but the last year or 2 of him in New Japan, I think it warrants it. I don't know if I'm going to put him ahead of Ibushi. But what do you guys think about Zack Sabre Jr. right now? He's got a great heel run in New Japan, and outside of New Japan as well.
I don't know if I would put him on the top 5. I mean, I didn't put him on my top 5, but I don't know if I see him on a top 5 list. But then again, I don't watch New Japan as much as Ben Wong or as much as Christian do, which you can see that's reflected in their lists. So, if I watched more, maybe if I had more of an idea of what it is exactly he's got going on besides seeing a couple clips here and there on the internet, maybe he would have made my list. Maybe I could understand more him being in the 3 spot, but personally, and I'm not saying that he's not good enough to be in that spot, just for me, myself, for what I watch, for what I see from a week-to-week basis, he wouldn't be on that list for me.
I have no problem with him being on someone's list. He wouldn't be on my list for similar reasons. 2018, ever since Wrestle Kingdom, I've had to make some sacrifices in my financial life, and one of those sacrifices for now is New Japan World. So I haven't been as up on my New Japan. I mean, there are a couple guys that when I get to my list, I'll explain that I had a tough decision with the number 5 spot. But from what I have seen with Zack Sabre Jr., I don't mind if he's on someone's top 10 list. He wouldn't be on mine because I haven't seen enough of him. So I think I kind of agree with Chandler in that.
Okay, let me ask you guys this. Is Zack Sabre Jr. being number 3 on anyone's list the biggest surprise of anything you saw on the list? Or any at least the most surprising appearance of any wrestler?
I would think so.
I would say so. Of the lists that we have in front of us here, and like you said, he's only on Ben Wong's list, so that is kind of surprising.
Another cool thing about Ben Wong's list is he's got Omega 1, Okada 2. These two will face off against each other round 4. And what is this? What is the stipulation? It's Omega, Okada, and
I can't remember
we'll have to
off
check.
the top of my head.
It might be an Iron Man match.
I think it might.
We'll
be an hour-long
Wait, isn't
Iron
it
Man?
2 out of 3 falls?
Oh, it's 2 out of 3 falls. Yes, that's what it is. It is Omega Okada 2 out of 3 falls, which is going to be just absolutely delightful. I believe that's coming up on June 9th. And you have to catch that one on New Japan World. Yeah, New Japan Domination. That's right. So then next we go to Sam Wagner's list. Sam has Johnny Gargano coming in at the 5 spot. I mean, the man's got 2 5-star WWE matches, which is really unheard of, especially in the last 20-plus years.
And he did it within the last year.
And he did it within a 4-month span.
Yeah,
not even
basically, a year. Yep.
Basically 3 months.
Yep.
So Johnny Gargano makes the list there. You also saw Gargano as number 3 on Zach's list. Moving to number 4, we have Kazuchika Okada. Then you've got Naito. So Naito makes 2 people's list, Christian and Sam. Ben Wong, big on New Japan, did not put Naito in there, but...
Which I was surprised by that.
I was a little bit surprised too.
That he didn't have Naito on his list.
But Ben Wong was still pretty true to his New Japan fandom with Omega Okada, Zack Sabre Jr., then going with Ibushi and a 5-spot tie between Skrull and Ospreay. For Sam, then going to the 2 spot is Kevin Owens, who is the only top... Really, if you look at everyone's list, outside of Shinsuke Nakamura, this is the first guy, and then Kevin Owens so far, Owens, AJ, who Sam has at number 1, ahead of Kevin Owens. Number 1, best in the world for Sam is AJ Styles. So right now, in terms of main roster guys, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, and Shinsuke Nakamura are the only 3 to make it so far. When we get to our list between us 3 currently here in the studio, and like I said, we've had the benefit, like you said, Chandler, we've had the benefit of a few weeks to change our list a little bit, because us 3 all have an extra wrestler on there, and you two you guys actually have another one on there that I don't have, only because, well, we'll get to that. But go ahead.
Can I edit my list right now? And
oh
make a
my
change
goodness.
Here?
Okay, here we go. What are you gonna do?
I am just going to flip flop my 5 and my 4, just because. But we'll get there when I get there.
Okay.
And I have reasons as I've been thinking about it. So, anyways, sorry to interrupt you there, pal.
Damn, pal. Okay, so we're looking at Sam's list, and as I said, for right now, Kevin Owens, Shinsuke Nakamura, and AJ Styles are the only 3 main roster WWE guys to make this list. If we're now, like I said, us 3 have had the month or whatever. Is this fair though? For like, nobody has an egregious list, right?
No.
But is it fair though to only have those 3 in terms of main roster WWE guys on your list? And also, The Miz did not make anyone's list. I would just like to point that out as well, just as a little side note.
When I was making my list, I based it solely on in-ring work, not promos, not whether I tried to be as objective as I could, not whether or not someone is just a personal favorite. I tried to base it on when I watch their match, do I think how consistent are they at having a good match? So, like you said, I don't think there's I don't see any problems with anyone's list thus far. Like, yes, our lists vary and our lists are different, but I have no arguments with anyone's list.
Before we get to Andre, I want to just I'm going to take the quote that you just said to start there, and that's going to be my reasoning for who is my number one.
And that's same
so
with
I'm
me.
so I'm going to take that because you really do have to do things a little bit differently. And while I think we're kind of taking in the complete package when it goes into this, but your in-ring work, I think, when the question was asked, who are the top 5 wrestlers in the world? I did not say sports entertainers. We didn't say best on the mic. That can be certainly something we do in the future, but that changes things quite a bit, and that's why I have the number one that I have, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But go ahead, Andre.
See, I differed from you two. I counted everything because when I think of wrestler, I think of everything.
Sure, which is totally fair.
That's completely fine.
Now, had you said the top 5 in-ring performers today, my list would have been completely different because I accounted for other things, not just the promos. I accounted for things that they have done. I accounted for, and part of the reason why I made my switches, I accounted for the fact that an indie wrestler sold out a 10,000 seat arena with that, and I've accounted for Daniel Bryan's being back in the crowd. I've accounted for everything, so that's why my list was tough. There's a couple guys that, if it was just straight up in ring, would not be on my list, and there are a couple guys that aren't on my list that would be on my list. But I'm glad that we kind of all did it slightly different, and I'm glad that there wasn't a strict in-ring performer or strict sports entertainer, that we kind of had leeway to interpret it how we wanted to.
Well, then let's go to your list, Andre.
All right, perfect. Well, my list, number 5, and this was the toughest one. I was going back and forth between Ospreay, Gargano, and either Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins. And in the last couple of minutes, I've kind of narrowed it down to number 5 is Monday Night Rollins. Seth Rollins, he's amazing. If it was just in-ring performance, he'd be higher. But he's definitely my number 5. Number 4 is Cody Rhodes. He's great in the ring, great on the mic. One of the best heels, if not the best heel in the business today. He sold out a 10,000 seat arena. I know he didn't do it by himself. He had a lot of help from the Bullet Club and the Young Bucks and everything else. But that is something that's unheard of.
It's a feat.
The amount of, what's the word I'm looking for, clout or whatever that Cody and the Bucks had to
cachet.
Had to contribute to my list. So Cody's definitely 4. I have number 3, the phenomenal AJ Styles. Number 2 is Kenny Omega, and number 1 is Daniel Bryan. My list has an asterisk because, as I said, 2018, I haven't watched much New Japan as I wanted to, so I'm sure it would be different if I had seen more New Japan. But Daniel Bryan, and maybe it's more sentimental, but he's number 1, not just in the ring, but the connection he has with the fans. He came back and he's immediately the top babyface in WWE. He gets a reaction, loud pop every time he comes out. Plus, he kills it in the ring. He's already had close to 10 matches, I would think. So he's picked up right where he left off, hasn't missed a beat, still has the connection with the fans, is still the number 1 babyface. So for me, it's got to be number 1.
Okay, then we'll get into the Daniel Bryan conversation. Chandler, I know he's going to appear on your list, but let's start with you and your number 5, who is getting on this list you're the only person who put this person on the list. It doesn't mean he's not deserving, but tell us who you have and why he's on there.
Yep. So start off my list at number 5. I have Pentagon Jr. or Pentagon Dark, whichever one you want to refer to him as. He's on my list because closing out the last season 3 of Lucha Underground, he ends the show with winning the Lucha Underground Championship, and more recently he won the Impact Wrestling World Championship from Austin Aries. And while I haven't watched much of him in Impact, I've seen clips here and there, and he looks just as good as he did when he was in Lucha Underground. Their next season is going to be starting up pretty soon here, and so that'll start off with him coming into the season as the champion. So I mean, he's got at least two major United States World Championships around his waist right now. Him and his brother Phoenix, they crush the indies all the time. They work so much and so hard in so many different places, and they both have held titles together or as singles competitors all throughout the indies in America and Mexico. And he's just, I know I said that I tried to be as objective as possible, and he is absolutely one of my favorites. If I'm doing a list of favorites, he's probably in my top 3 right now. But his in-ring work, in my opinion, is good enough for him to make my top 5 list. I left off people like it was really, really hard for me to do this, but I left off people like Kenny Omega and Okada and even Naito. Like these are people that I considered for my list, but once I narrowed it down, I think that I do have a good what I consider to be the list of the best 5 in the world currently. My number 4 is Charlotte Flair.
Great pick.
I can't speak highly enough about her. She gets better and better and better every time that she comes out, has a match, cuts a promo, does anything. I'm so impressed and blown away by her. And one of my favorite things about Charlotte Flair is as awesome as Charlotte is, or excuse me, let me start that over. As important as Ric Flair, her father, is to the wrestling business and to the wrestling industry, Charlotte Flair is miles ahead of Ric Flair as far as actual in-ring work. And I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack from people for that, but if you watch a Ric Flair match, and I know that it's completely different times and it's completely different styles of wrestling, but Charlotte does so much more than Ric Flair ever did in his entire career. So that, honestly, and as important as Ric Flair is, the fact that Charlotte can do so much more, to me, that carries a lot of weight. Number 3 for me is Daniel Bryan. For basically every reason that Andre just stated, he came right back to the exact same position that he was in when he left. He's the top babyface in the company, and he hasn't missed a step when it comes to actual in-ring work. Number 2 is going to be AJ Styles, just because he's phenomenal. He's on a great WWE Championship run, and very similar. I look at AJ and Charlotte in pretty much the same light. They both are just so impressive, and they just, every time I watch them, I love them and fall in love with them all over again. I love them more and more. And my number 1 wrestler in the world right now is Seth freaking Rollins. He has been crushing it ever since that gauntlet match. In my opinion, he's been the best wrestler in the world.
I think that's fair to say. And when you look at my list, I put Seth Rollins at number 5. And while that may not seem like a lot, the list that I had made right after WrestleMania, Seth Rollins didn't appear on that list. So when you continue what he's done from that gauntlet match and now an extra month afterwards, he has gained his way back on my list.
I agree with that statement. He's crushed it since WrestleMania, and I'm wondering if other people's lists would have been slightly different had they done it more recently. But Seth Rollins, I'm glad that he made it on a few of our lists.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying is that, Chandler, Andre, and I all put Seth Rollins on our list. The first 4 did not. That's Christian, Zach, Benoit, and Sam. But there was a month between our list and their list.
I wouldn't put him on there at that point either.
And that's kind of the interesting thing is how far he's come. And not to say that he would have been in the top 10 regardless back then, only thinking 4 to 6 weeks ago. But another just really great run for him has supplanted him. And he still, to me, is somewhat without a specifically established character, or I'm not sold on him as a face. But it doesn't matter once that bell to bell. It doesn't matter that Seth Rollins is still Seth Rollins, and he's showed that again and again, and that's why he gets on all 3 of our top 5 lists.
I would disagree with that, just because I think that the fact that he has proven that he is the worker, like the workhorse of the WWE right now, that's, to me, that puts him, that's his character. That's what he does. His in-ring body of work kind of is his gimmick, if you will.
Okay, and that's fair to say. Andre, so you already got into your list, where we'll continue with mine. I had Seth Rollins. I got AJ Styles at number 4. He's just that guy. It's like, how do you keep him off your top 5 list, even if you really want to? And not to say that I don't want him on there or that I dislike AJ, but he's somebody I got to see live 3 times over the last 6 weeks. We all went to SmackDown together early March, and just seeing him there in a 6-man tag match after a little segment with Ziggler, like, the guy is just, he really is phenomenal. The Word fits his gimmick perfectly, and the Word is partially his gimmick because of that. And AJ Styles is phenomenal. He is amazing. He is the modern day HBK in some ways. I'm not going to put him on that level yet because I don't HBK had a
Are you
promo.
talking strictly in the ring, or are you talking outside the ring?
Okay, here's what
If you're
here's
talking
what,
strictly in the ring. I say it's Gargano.
here's what I think is that if you wanted to make HBK today, it would take AJ Styles' offense, it would take the selling of Dolph Ziggler, it would take the mic skills of The Miz. I won't go that far because I'll put The Miz's mic skills right now a little bit above HBK, but HBK is still, that's not a slight at him, but I honestly think you'd have to do like a robot Power Rangers morph together type of thing to get to build HBK with today's guys. And that's nothing against Gargano or AJ or Dolph Ziggler, or The Miz, but it would take some sort of concoction of these guys to make HBK, in my opinion.
And to be fair, HBK by most people's standards is considered
a top 5 all time.
MJ.
Sure.
A lot of former pro wrestlers call him the MJ of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Guys like Kevin Nash and Ric Flair and all those people. So it's hard to you can't stack people for today for that standard. That's just not fair to them. You have to look at each person in the vacuum. But that's a really interesting idea.
So I've got AJ number 4, and it's a tough thing because, like we talked about with Andre, is are we taking everything into account? Are we just taking the in-ring? When it comes to my number 1, it's mostly just in-ring, but there is certainly more to it. But when I get to my number 3, I am encompassing more than just the in-ring, because while I think he might be today's best heel and he might be the best 70s style heel that we have today, just seeing him take a drink from a woman in the front row and then spit it in the guy's face next to her, like, just great stuff that you didn't think that you could see in 2018, and he just does it. And then also, if you were to fast forward 5 to 10 years from now, we might be saying that Cody Rhodes is the most important wrestler of our lifetime. For what he did leaving WWE, going to the indies, working all the indies, getting, successfully completing basically his to-do list of leaving WWE, and then making the indies sell out a building that, a Monday Night Raw or a SmackDown wouldn't necessarily sell out, or even some of the mid to lower level pay-per-views. This All-In thing that they've sold out within around 30 minutes is just absolutely insane. And for him to take this idea, put it into fruition over less than a year span, at least since it was let known to the public that this is something that he wanted to do. And I know it still has to come on yet, but what a success this is. While wrestlers have been announced, and Cody Rhodes is the figurehead of this, there still hasn't been a match specifically announced. And for it to be far and away maybe one of the most I don't know. It's like the accolades are coming after it happens, but right now it's like the thing that wrestling fans, I feel like if you are not just your classic, strictly only WWE, by the books, heels are heels, faces are faces, Roman Reigns fan type of guy or girl, that All In is the event or pay-per-view or special, whatever, streaming or live that anyone is looking forward to more than anything else that is right now currently scheduled.
I really hope that this puts a fire under WWE's behind. I really do.
But yeah, it really is something special that Cody Rhodes is doing, and who wouldn't be excited for All In? Hopefully it comes to hopefully it like hits all those bars that we want it to in terms of being the great event. Number 2, I have Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is my favorite wrestler in the world. I love Shinsuke. I love Sami Zayn. I love Daniel Bryan. None of those guys made my list. Kenny Omega is the man to me. He is what brought me to New Orleans in the first place, and he gets number 2. And while I was so much looking forward to see him and Cody take each other on at Supercard of Honor 12, the man who stole the show for me was Kota Ibushi, and it's hard for me not to put, after seeing Kota Ibushi live and in person, not put Kota Ibushi number 1. I think Ben Wong had him at his number 4, and I'm putting Kota Ibushi at number 1, man. He's got a great look. He's perfect. If you guys guess what his age is right now, if you had to guess Kota Ibushi's age.
I would say no older than 32 or 3.
30.
He's 36 or 37 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
He hasn't aged in a freaking decade. It's honestly unbelievable to me what an amazing look that he has just kept together. And even Kenny Omega has said things like, I can't believe it. Like, I can't even tell a difference between this guy and 10 years ago. I mean, it really is, like, he is just an ageless wonder. And while, if I was going to take into account skills on the mic, that would certainly hurt him, but there's obviously a language barrier that I don't want to count that against him. The look that he has, the perfection of his moves, and also the way he can just look at you, but also everyone in the building feel that emotion, and just the match he put on with Hangman Page, man, that to me stole the show at Supercard of Honor. And Kota Ibushi, right now, to me, is the best professional wrestler in the world. And he is sort of a weirdo. Like, he's turned down big money and big opportunities to do weird stuff with, like, DDT, where he's outside wrestling or kissing dudes while
shooting Roman candles at his opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Just jackass wrestling. But he really has the talent to do it anywhere he wants. He's turned down WWE offers. He was in the Final Four of the Cruiserweight Classic. There are so many things to like about Kota Ibushi. I do hope that in the next few years we do get to see him for a couple years, more so in the States than elsewhere. But to me, Kota Ibushi right now, I think, is the best in-ring performer in the world. And I would not have thought that had I not seen him in person. And I also, being here, we don't get to see that much Kota Ibushi. I mean, you see highlights occasionally, or you hear stories or whatever. We don't really get a great view of him consistently, even with the New Japan stuff on TV. But Kota Ibushi to me is like he's on another level right now when it comes to in-ring, and I would love seeing him against anybody on any of these lists. It doesn't matter. I think you've got a 5-star classic on your hands. And I just hope that with Kota Ibushi, none of us thought he would be 36, 37. I just hope that we do get, hopefully over the next 3 to 5 years, that we do get to see more of him in the States, and hopefully, kind of fortifying some of those dream opponents.
AJ Styles is 40 years old. So this day and age, it's not like it was in the past where people were just partying and drinking and doing drugs. People are taking care of themselves now. So yeah, 36 is not what it used to be. He's got a lot of time left. Nakamura is 38.
Yes, and Kenny Omega, I think, is 34, if I'm not mistaken. So Kota Ibushi turns 36 next week, so he will be 36 next week on May the 21st. So really just a few days away before the man turns 36. But as I said, ageless wonder, unbelievable. But that about wraps up the show, Chandler.
Yep, that's it for us this week. Be sure to give us a like, a follow, all that good stuff on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube to get caught up on the shows. Search for @the Schmozcast. And yeah, I think that does it for this week.
That's right. So catch us next week. We'll be back at 8 o'clock. And check out that YouTube page especially because not just this show, but hopefully a couple more from around WrestleMania will also be up soon.
All right. For Andre and Anthony, I'm Chandler here at the 103.5 The Sun Community Radio Station. Thanks for listening.